Hello there, it is me, Pepper Tay, and the new Barbie movie just came out, and I watched it with my family, and I liked it. So naturally, as a functioning person in society, I'd have to defend some stupid ass criticism that it gets. Speaking of dumb criticism that the Barbie movie got, meet Just a Robot. He's a pretty big content creator who, from what I understand, makes whatever he wants, like drama related commentaries, political videos, and obviously media analysis videos. He made a review of the Barbie movie and I didn't like his review, so in the famous words of Mario, let's go. Also, obviously major spoilers for the Barbie movie. I highly suggest watching the movie first, then continuing on. Okay, thank you.
Now this movie has one of those plots that isn't done that often, but whenever I see it in any film, I always hate it. Barbie is from a magical world and she's coming to our world. I've never ever understood why this is done in movies. It was done in the He-Man movie, the Sonic movie, and even in the Fat Albert movie for some strange reason. It's kind of like a reverse isekai when you really get down to it. Instead of someone from our world traveling to a magical world, it's someone from a world that is 100 times more interesting than ours, and they're living in suburbia.
Okay, but are we gonna forget the fact that the Barbie movie did what you said they wouldn't do? Someone from our world going to a more interesting world, because they did. When we get introduced to Gloria and Sasha, the two people in the real world, they travel to the Barbie world with stereotypical Barbie, you know, the Barbie that we're following along here in the movie, to help her get away from the Mattel CEO and his crew. Like, that's a very key part of the movie.
Doing this to He-Man and Sonic is one thing, but Fat Albert and Barbie could 100% fit in our world.
Barbie can't though. She's a breathing physical doll walking around in LA. That's why Mattel was after her throughout the movie and trying to stop her from taking someone from the real world to the Barbie world. Also, before anybody points out that like everyone in LA was completely fine with her being there and didn't question the fact that she was a doll, did we forget about Sasha? Because Sasha was calling her deranged for saying that she was Barbie.
It starts off with a reference to 2001's A Space Odyssey. Well, I have to say I didn't see that coming. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this movie made for little girls between the ages of 7 and 12? I don't think that many of them will get this reference. This is a problem I've had with a few movies growing up as a kid. Like, I'm 9 years old, I'm not gonna get a Scarface reference.
Dude, the Barbie movie is PG-13, like a movie for teenagers and adults. It's not for 7 to 12-year-old girls.
So Barbie and Ken go to the real world, and on day 1, Ken gets killed. Oh my god, they killed Kenny, those bastards! No, I'm only joking, that doesn't happen. I wouldn't put it past the film writers to make a South Park reference, considering they made a reference to 2001's A Space Odyssey. Instead, some guy just slaps Barbie on the ass in a public place in broad daylight, in Lefty, California. No, that wouldn't happen. That guy would get shit for doing something like that by tons of people right then and there. Believe me, I know.
Okay, so yes, this wouldn't be accepted in California, but the movie isn't trying to be super duper mega realistic and accurate with everything that it has. It's just trying to show that the real world isn't that kind to women and more male dominated than the Barbie world. But whatever is okay in California is out the window in the movie, because that's not supposed to be the main focus jar. It's supposed to just prove a fucking point, but also a huge key point to the plot of the movie.
Also, let's not forget this sexual assault also happens right in front of her boyfriend.
Actually, Ken just had a crush on Barbie. Barbie never had any feelings for Ken.
Oh yeah, Barbie also has to deal with catcalling as well. Now, maybe as a man, it's not my place to say this, but I think getting sexually assaulted is about 100 times worse than being catcalled. But the writers don't seem to think so.
Okay, but how though? In the movie, it does show how catcalling is wrong by showing that Barbie is uncomfortable by all of this attention she's getting from all the men in California. And with harassment, she literally slapped the guy who harassed her. These two are shown to be equally as bad as the other in the movie too. Like, did we watch the same movie or did you watch Oppenheimer?
She's arrested for punching the guy who sexually assaulted her in the face. Now, if you think it's strange that she's getting arrested for defending herself, and you're a little confused by this scene, well, that's because you should be. You see, something that affects men much more than women is the prison system. Men spend more jail time than women, and they're more likely to get arrested. And before you bring up race, guess what? The gender difference between men and women is 6 times greater than the race difference between white and black people. I'm sorry, but you can't take something that affects men much more than women and say it's a problem for women.
But that's not what the movie is intending to do here. It's again showing how a lot of times women get treated harsher than men, and how the real world is more dominated by men, not some pseudo piece about the prison system or some shit.
I hate to break it to you, but women do get the longer end of the stick on a few things. Hashtag world ends, women most affected. What this movie could have done is shown that the human world is better in some ways, but also worse in other ways.
That's literally what the movie does. It shows how men are treated better than women, which is something Ken appreciates because Ken isn't treated like this in the Barbie world. And how there are actual drinks and water coming out of the shower, unlike the Barbie world, which is something Barbie and Ken aren't particularly used to.
Anyways, Barbie discovers her owner, who of course talks about how Barbie is ruining the world with the unobtainable beauty standards it's made for young girls, and how it's a capitalist tool. What? Didn't Hasbro look over this film? Why would they want people to think that their most popular product is a bad thing?
So I want to bring up how you show a clip of Gloria and Sasha, the two people from the real world, at the Barbie world, because Barbie took a trip with them to Barbie world, which makes your original point of someone from our world going to a more interesting world a lot more groundless, because this literally does happen in the movie and you do show it yourself.
Also, Ken finds out about the patriarchy. He really likes it because he's respected for once in his life. He takes it back with him to Barbie World and uses it to take over the place. Yep, it only took one man to take down a feminist utopia. It's strange to see a group of powerful women being defeated by one man in a modern movie.
Because Ken tells all the other Kens about the patriarchy and we're able to manipulate the Barbies to become housewives and maids. Again, like, are we watching the same movie?
So Barbie's plan is to have the Kens fight amongst themselves by having the Barbies hook up with other Kens. That just sounds like a Sneako's paradise to me. But it works and all the Kens end up fighting one another. Everything goes back to how it used to be, with men not having any power and being treated as second-class citizens.
No, it doesn't. In the end of the movie, the Barbies say that they're gonna try to take some ideas from Ken's patriarchy and implement them into their own. Like Ken's having rights and do stuff Barbies can also do.
Barbie leaves Ken to be a single man and returns to the real world, so just like Pinocchio, she can become a real girl. It starts with her growing up vagina, which is transphobic, mind you. Are you saying you're only a real woman if you got one of those? Also, she lives with a woman who turns out was the one who designed Barbie? Wow! It wasn't designed by a man? It was made by a woman all along? Cool. I and everyone else in the world already knew that. She's been the head of Hasbro for over 30 years. No one ever thought a girl's toy was made by a man.
Again, of course everyone knows that Barbie was made by a woman, but that's not the point as to why the owner is in the movie. She's here to tell Barbie that she can either stay in Barbie world or pursue a life in the real world, because it's really up to her. Like the big emotional scene Barbie has with her and her mother, also owner, there was a whole thing about that in the movie, in the ending of the movie. Like, what?
The movie ends with her going to a gynecologist. A strange way to end off a kid's movie, but hey, it's 2013. By the way, just like with the Netflix show Masters of the Universe Revelations, the trailers lied to us and hid most of this woke stuff from us. Other than the guy slapping Barbie's ass, everything to do with this feminist propaganda came as a shock to me.
Yes, there was. The main trailer you shows Barbie worrying about death.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
But you did say they showed Barbie getting catcalled, sexually harassed, and getting arrested for self-defense.
What's going on? Why are these men looking at me?
Yeah, they're also staring at me.
But even then, that should have gave a small hint that the movie would touch on subjects like women's rights and death. Also, how you speed up the trailer is really fucking flashy. Like, please don't do that. This isn't a fucking rave party. And finally, you're really vague on what you mean by woke. Like, I'm not entirely sure on what you mean by woke and what is woke and what isn't woke in the movie. I don't know if you have that as like a video explaining what you think woke is, but if you don't, you should. So I don't have to sit here and choose like a scene that might be woke to you.
Also in this movie, Hasbro is run by a group of men, even though in real life that isn't true. They literally had to ignore reality just to make a point about the glass ceiling.
Again, obviously that's not true. It can be easily debunked, but again, the movie isn't trying to be oh so realistic on everything ever, but just trying to prove a point that a lot of places like companies are mostly male dominated. Obviously there's places like Mattel. By the way, it wasn't Hasbro, it's Mattel. You mix those two up, jar, who aren't as male dominated, but there's still a lot of them out there.
Also, apparently they need to get Barbie to return to her world, but they are also upset when she does? They keep talking about catastrophic things happening, but they don't make it clear what those things are.
Yes, they do. They say how Barbie could hypothetically bring someone from the real world to the Barbie world, and insane how for a breathing doll to walk around California like if it's nothing. But I am done. So my thoughts is to pay attention to what's happening in movies if you're gonna make a movie review ever again, or really on any media, and to not ask so much for like realism. Like there was 3 times where you asked for like the biggest realism ever or some shit, and I'm just like, bro, but that's the end of the video. I am done, and I am done.
I hate you. You're so annoying.